This is the Making Noise podcast. It makes me think a lot about how we're so good at giving advice, but we aren't good at taking our own advice. You know?
Yeah.
And I don't remember who I heard this from, but it was one of the most powerful things I had heard someone say, which was treat yourself as if you're someone you want to take care of, or something like that.
I love that. Yeah.
Or as if you were someone who you would take care of, like your spouse or something, you know?
Right.
And I that to me is really powerful, because like I know I would, when my girlfriend, if she gets into a mode where she's like getting a lot of negative thoughts and like not feeling great, I'm like, nope, stop right there.
Yeah.
We're having cake. Like, you know,
we're having cake.
we're shifting gears really
like
quickly.
This relationship. This is great.
I am usually the one to suggest the cake. So.
I love it.
But yeah,
I love that. And especially like you said, particularly with like negative thinking patterns, think like you love yourself, right? So it's every time you catch yourself doing that, where you're in a spiral, we all do it. We all get into that, right? And then developing the skill to recognize it and be like, hold on, this is not me talking to myself like I love myself, right? I got to get, and it can be useful. You're like, okay, I see where I'm stressed about that. I see where I'm falling short of my intentions or my integrity, and I'm going to come back to that. But me like yelling at myself right now, not helping with that. I'm not getting better. I'm not suddenly achieving just because I'm yelling at myself.
It's funny hearing you say this, because this is literally the same thing as practicing.
Yeah. Right.
like when you're in the practice room and you're trying to get that one thing down and you're like, God, I can't get it, and you get frustrated. I mean, it always amazes me when you can see these connections of being a musician, the craft of being a musician, and then making connections to everything else in the world and your life.
Yeah.
You know,
so much of so much of being a musician teaches us the craft of being a person. And it's teaching us how to pay attention to things, how to be in practice with something, how to collaborate with other human beings, like how to listen, how to, do all of these things that are skills that we totally want, that we would pull out as being incredible benefits and personality traits of somebody else, right? We'd be like, oh yeah, they're just such a great listener, right?
Yeah.
Music teaches us how to do that all the time.
That's so amazing.
Right? But that's exactly what you're pointing out, right? That's so spot on, Adam. I love that you made that connection to say, see how this is teaching us how to be our fullest selves in the world.
Yeah, when I was in grad school, I think I made a lot of connections like that with composing. Like I never did a lot of like public speaking before grad school. And then I had an assistantship.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was the president of we brought Percepta, the organization that brought you over.
Percepta.
So there was so many times where I had to start doing public speaking more. And when that started happening for me, I realized I can treat this like composing. So I first sat down, I wrote out everything I wanted to say, and then I kind of read through it, and then like I sort of practiced it in a way, where like in composing, it's like I write that first draft, just get it all out, and then go back, edit it later, sort of thing. And so anyways, using the musical side of me to inform everything else that I do started to take effect a little bit. It kind of makes me think, or it brings this question to mind. How do I even ask that? God, the reverse of that. What has your life informed on performing and practicing or being a musician?
That's a big one. Let's see here. My life has informed my performing in very specific ways. And I think that you can see it in the work that I do now and that I've been doing, right? Is that I believe deeply in the power of storytelling. And there's nothing more special to me than being able to share that with each other and being able to tell a story that people are like, this is A, for me, B, this is powerful, moving. I get to feel all my feelings with this. And I think that that's exactly what I want to do. That I think of my performance life as being this experience that I've created. I often talk, I'm going to say, I might have said this on a podcast before. We'll see how this goes. But like, I often think of performing as this like really exciting treehouse that I've made, right? That I handcrafted. I like put up all these little boards. I strung all of this like pretty sparkly lights. I made it super cozy in there so that we could get together and tell stories. And I think of it that way every time I walk into a performance space and I see people sitting and like looking back at me. That is the image that flashes in my mind every single time. And I feel myself, even if I'm not doing it physically, I feel myself kind of like reaching out and like bringing them in and asking them, inviting them. I think of every single beginning of a performance, like I'm saying like, hey, I made this really cool treehouse. Do you want to come check it out with me? Like, you want to come check it out? You want to sit in it together? And it can't happen without them saying yes, without them joining me in that space. And so I think that in the performance space, you know, I'm on this side, like looking at them, they're on this side looking at me, but that liminal space between us is the magic. And where they meet me and where I meet them with all of the things I've worked on, like that's what happens. And I think of that as I'm bringing myself, the work that I've done with my collaborators and with my composers, I'm bringing that and I'm saying like, look at all this stuff that we made for you. Like, you want to come in and hang out for a minute? And I think because treehouses kind of conjure that like childlike notion of play and also a safe space, right? You're like, I mean, depending on how safe your treehouse is in the tree, but like, like this safe space that you would only hang out with your best friends, like in that space. But I think it's so powerful to invite listeners into that because we're going to probably get into some deep emotions. That's kind of work that I like to do in music. We're going to get into some big feels and I want them to know that I created this like really soft, comfy place so that they can feel those things, have those thoughts. We can share those stories, and then they get to leave and go about the rest of their day, go about the rest of their night, like, and think about that moment that we created together.
Well, I have to say that I've experienced you as the performer and me as the audience, you know, the listener and stuff. And the last time I think was Strange Beautiful Music in Detroit.
Oh yeah, I love that show.
I know, it's such a great time. And
aren't they amazing? Like that is an amazing community. New Music Detroit, Strange Beautiful Music, everybody involved. Oh gosh, great.
So great. I've been to a few performances of theirs that they do such great things. Yeah. And but I have to say, I mean, like your performance, that's one of the things that I remember very clearly. And one of the things that I loved was how you personified what you were performing, you know? Yeah. And I like, I'm getting really specific now, right? But I love just this, like the gestures and the facial expressions that you make. Cause
thank you.
I recognize that it's probably easy, or I don't want to say easy. It's like, I don't know. I'll say easy because I can't think of anything better. It's probably easy to like be very big, you know, and but when you're performing, I get the sense that it's much more nuanced, you know, like your movements are even as calculated as the way you're singing.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, that's a thing that I talk about when I do vocal master classes. And what I love so much about the act of singing, with the fact that we have text and we use our bodies and like, and I love seeing instrumentalists do this too. So but the fact that I get text means that I get to work on like multiple levels, right? I get to work on the level of the sheer sound and timbre of the vocal line, I get to work on the actual words that I'm saying, right? And those can agree or disagree, right? And then I can also work on the level with what my face and my body are doing. And it's really fun to be in practice where you're thinking about, do they agree or disagree? Is this the same or are they different? And so playing around with, sometimes they're all in agreement, right? What I'm doing with my body, what the text is literally saying, and what the sound of the vocal line is doing, those all agree. Now choose like one of them to disagree, or choose two of them to disagree, and start to see where your audience picks up on that, and they start to come along with you. And they may not even realize how you're influencing that nuance, right? But if I'm saying, I always use the example of bless her heart, right? Depending on like how you say that with your voice, the words, and like what your face is doing, then like, bless her heart means a lot of different things,
right,
depending
right.
on where you are. And so we can do that in vocal music as well. And it's just so much fun to feel audiences come with you, or when you get them to think critically about the fact that you've made them disagree, right? You have to be so clear on what you're doing, so, especially when they're disagreeing. If I'm doing something with my face that is not agreeing with the line and the text, the literal text, then it can be really off-putting for a listener, or they can be like, oh, I see what she's doing there. Right? We get a little bit of that like omniscient viewer, omniscient listener sense of like, she's telling me something else here and I get it. Like,
that makes me think of like singing a lullaby, but it's incredibly dark, you know?
Yes.
Right?
Totally. Yes. And like all of those things, if you are singing, it tells you so much about the rest of the story, where you are in the timeline. If you're singing something, I was just talking to Alan Tyson, my saxophone duo partner, about this with the first piece that we open Black Meridian, our upcoming touring show. Whenever we're able to tour again, we are going to like put that out on the road like crazy.
It's happening.
It's happening. And I'm so excited about it because it's all just like coming together and gelling. And it's so much fun to work on. We were talking about the first piece because it's actually a cover. And so when you hear like I'll just get into this a little bit. It's a Sarah Bareilles cover. And when you hear Sarah Bareilles do it, it can have like some kind of pathos. There's a little bit of longing. There might be some like other feelings in there. And when we do it, because it's the opening of the show, there's just so much more joy that's a part of it. But you have to make sure that all of it's agreeing with that, because sometimes the text alone, that's where like the text is going to maybe be one of those things that disagrees, but how the line moves and what my face and my body are doing tells you whether or not I might be singing a sad or a text, but how do I feel about that, right? I still feel good about it. And so I think that's when you were asking, how does your life inform like the performance work that you do? That's a thing that now where I'm at in my life, I understand a lot more than I understood when I was first starting my performance journey, when each feeling, when each phrase has deeper meanings, has multifaceted ways of looking at it. And I, as a person, understand that and can bring my experience to that. That's a place that I'm at right now. And then, yeah, the movements can be big or small, but it's the fact that there's more colors. It's more, it's more robust of an understanding of how I feel about that, both as myself as the performer and myself as the character, that I think is just so exciting about performing right now.